O'clock, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Our first item is our Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Vice Chair, could you read our mission statement?
The mission of the Marshall Public School District is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success.
Thank you. Moving on to our agenda, a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any additions? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Tiger Spotlight.
Just want to, excuse me, take a moment to recognize Jeff and Matt for their achievements, accomplishments, and recognition at the Minnesota School Boards Association Winter Leadership Conference in January. Jeff, you were recognized with the President's Award for 20 years of service as a school board member, and Matt, you were recognized with the Director's Award from the Minnesota School Boards Association for completing, I believe it was 100 or more hours in the last 4 years, but 300 total. So congratulations to both of you. Many of us had the opportunity to be at the recognition luncheon, but not everybody did. So congratulations to both of you for those accomplishments and recognitions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our public forum. If you're going to speak, we need you to sign up, come up to the microphone and state your name and talk into the microphone because it's being taped. We ask you to limit your remarks to no more than 3 minutes. If there is more than one person in your group who wishes to address the board, please designate a spokesperson. Board members are not allowed to answer questions. This is a public meeting and a hearing, and the board meeting is the board meetings are public, and we need you to be respectful. Inappropriate language will not be tolerated due to data privacy laws. Information concerning specific students or staff is not appropriate for this agenda. Information addressing specific students or staff should be communicated to the appropriate building administrators or to the superintendent of schools. I'd like to welcome everybody. Public forum is now open. If somebody would like to come and approach the microphone.
Hello, my name is Julie Walker, and I'm a parent of three children that are currently in the Marshall Public Schools. 3 of my 4 children have been going to Marshall Public Schools for as long as they possibly can be going. I want to stand in support of initiatives that were begun in the last few weeks by the Marshall Middle School, specifically the initiative to hang up a rainbow flag. That is a flag that stands in support, typically, a visual support of students who are a part of the LGBTQ+ community. 2 of my children are in some form or way a part of the LGBTQ+ community. Specifically, one of my children who is a student over at Parkside. I have met with the principal as well as the social emotional teacher, my child's teacher, and the school psychologist. Apparently my child is one of the youngest children in Marshall Public School history to need some support in non-binary types of situations. This came forward because my child likes to wear pink, and they chose to have long hair. Other children were teasing my son because of choosing to have long hair and wearing pink, telling them that they they can't be a boy if that's what that is. And I think that we all recognize that that's not true. If there was a hockey kid that had long hair, that wouldn't be what they would experience. But because my child also liked to wear pink, that was something that was a problem. I was told during that meeting that my child is one of the youngest children in Marshall Public School history to need types of supports outside the gender binary. And I'm very grateful for the supports that their teacher has been providing and that they have received both in the classroom and in the hallways of Marshall Public Schools. I'm very grateful for the rainbow flag to be something that is being hung proactively for our students. We know that students who don't have support are much more likely to engage in self-harm behaviors as well as to engage in suicidal tendencies, and the rates of suicide amongst LGBTQ plus individuals, especially trans individuals, is extremely high as compared to the greater population. When our schools are safe havens, when some of our homes are not safe havens for these children, the schools become the safe places where they can safely be who they are. When you read the comments online, even amongst people within the Marshall area, you fear for your children within their identities, but you also sometimes fear for their safety. Even comments made as we were making posts trying to let folks know that this meeting was happening today, that there was an open space for us to stand in support of initiatives like this. There were comments that were made that were quite violent in nature, in my opinion, and I recognize that I will have an opinion that may be different from others on that. So I want to say that I'm very grateful for all of the efforts to stand in support with all children, because we can't have a school district who strips culture and personhood from our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Julie Allen, and as a former teacher in this school system for 34 years, I'm very proud of the Marshall Middle School and Mary K. Thomas for the inclusive project that she initiated. For our students to have an identity flag representing them in their learning environment truly shows we are reaching out and showing support to meet the needs of all learners for success, as our mission statement states. As a mother of a gay son, I can tell you that being gay was not a choice for our oldest son, Tim. He suffered from depression from 6th grade through college. We as a family had many dark, scary days, along with many sleepless nights, and I don't wish that on anyone. We had no idea Tim was gay, and he was working hard to live a straight lifestyle. Junior year of college, he came home one weekend and he told me he thought he was gay, and he asked me to keep it a secret because he was really going to try to change himself. He finally came out to his dad and his brother senior year of college. He had tried to hide his true self for 10 years. He was a computer major at NDSU, and he said, "Mom, you can cut off my hands if I could be straight, because I don't want to live this lifestyle." He would love to be married like his brother and have children, but it's taken him so much longer to find himself. Had Tim sat in that cafeteria at the middle school and saw a flag of support, I believe our path would not have been so dark and scary, and he would have realized that he's a great guy, just the way God made him. I believe we are also fortunate as parents that we are active in Tim's life, and he is present with us. Not all LGBTQ families are as lucky as we are. 39% of our LGBTQ youth between the ages of 10 and 24 have considered suicide in the past 12 months, according to the Trevor Project. To me, that's a big number. They're not at risk of suicide because of their sexual orientation, but because of the harmful rejection and discrimination from friends, family, and their community that makes them feel less worthy than their straight peers. So again, I thank Mary Kay Thomas. I thank the teachers at the Marshall Middle School for making our students feel safe. That's when true learning can take place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Evan Palmer. It is my understanding that this flag project was launched on the basis of making every student feel included and acknowledged. With this being considered, what will the effect of this absence of the flag have not only the students that it represents, but all the community members? If the flag were not there, that will leave a permanent impression of exclusivity among students toward the district and their own hometown. As I stated in my letters to the editor, if I were to have this flag up while I was in middle school, it would have had such a positive impact on my experience. Regardless of your own religious beliefs, is it not a valid idea to set those aside for the well-being of all youth? Kids in the LGBT community, during this day and age, live in constant fear of judgment and abandonment due to the stigma that is placed on it. Kids can walk by that flag in the hallway and take pride in the fact that the school they attend has its hand on their shoulder guiding them through this confusing time in their life. Kids can walk by that flag knowing that they are safe in these hallways. I can walk through life knowing that that flag is hung up and take pride in the fact that the community I was born and raised in is taking steps toward the acceptance that the LGBT community needs. According to the Trevor Project, LGBT youth contemplate suicide at almost 3 times the rate of heterosexual youth. Suicide attempts by LGBT youth, questioning youth, are 4 to 6 times more likely to result in injury. 1 out of 6 students nationwide seriously considered suicide in the past year. I am physical proof of these statistics. Middle school was without a doubt the hardest period of my life. Finding out where I belonged in the world, dealing with struggles of never fully coming out myself and having to be outed, along with the general struggles of just being in that age group was difficult. Having something that represented who I was, having something to look to every day, and know that I belong somewhere would have been a grip for me to hold on to. And I know that without a doubt, that is doing the same for the kids that are in my same position. There comes the issue of those who feel this flag should not be up because it isn't a country. This flag project had the morals of inclusivity and representation, not solely based on countries and nationalities. This flag isn't representing some club. It represents a group of people who didn't choose. You cannot choose whether or not to be LGBT. It is something you are born into. Why would someone make a conscious decision to be ridiculed? Why would anyone want to be viewed as an abnormality? Embracing the differences in our community, be it religious, sexual orientation, gender identity, etc., creates a healthy environment for all youth to grow. The inclusivity that this flag brings teaches students to accept and tolerate rather than shun and alienate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bruce Meyer, and I want to give you a historical perspective since I'm so old. I grew up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and even then, being a kid was an awkward time. I learned a lot of sketchy, ignorant attitudes in those days against lots of different groups, including gay people. I never knew a gay person until probably the 80s. And I always thought of it as being a horrible, nasty thing because that's what I got from church, society, school. No one gave me a positive image, including movies. When I finally found out that I was possibly in one of those groups, I had some really dark days and hard times trying to figure out how I was going to live with that. I found out I had to change my attitudes all by myself. If my school, my community, and my church had been more supportive and helpful and open at that time, it would have made a tremendous difference in my life, and it would have been a lot happier sooner. I'm pretty happy now, and life is good. I just want to encourage you all to be open and supportive to and love our gay kids.
Thank you. You look like your mom still. You look like your mom.
Classic teacher mistake. 1 copy short. Oops. All right, I am going to speak very quickly. That's why I
Name,
gave you the handout. My name is Carrie Alberts. I am here. I'm hopeful that you'll give me a little leniency on time because I am here as a mother and a teacher and an advisor and a tax-paying citizen within the district. It is my understanding, and I'm speaking maybe before this is occurring, but I believe that there will be some pastors speaking or perhaps some people speaking against having this flag up. Because of religious purposes. If I'm wrong, I apologize. If I'm right, I just would like to point out that the First Amendment of the United States Constitution is what we look at and that has been upheld for decades. And that was ratified in 1791, and it ensures that public entities need not consult with churches in order to operate or to make decisions. I also would like very much to just reiterate that, of course, the state of Minnesota follows the Constitution, as does the Minnesota Department of Education and Marshall Public School District 413, of which I am so proudly and passionately employed. If you are here to argue that churches have the ability to run schools, public schools anyway, that fight is elsewhere. That is in St. Paul or Washington, D.C. In these walls, of course, your opinions are all valid. Everybody can think their thoughts. They can have their opinions. They can hold their beliefs. And we could stand here and debate all of the holy books all day long and what they mean to us and how we interpret them. But what I would really like to get to the heart of is why I'm here. First of all, I just want to say that, well, to remind everyone that in 1993, 27 years ago, Minnesota became the first U.S. state to outlaw both sexual orientation and gender identity discrimination, protecting LGBT people from discrimination in the fields of employment, housing, and public accommodation such as schools. Here in Marshall exists a district that has prided itself on building up our students by validating who they are, protecting them, preparing all of them for success, nurturing them, teaching them, mentoring them, instilling in them the values such as kindness, respect, and civic duty, fostering their growth and providing them a well-rounded education, ensuring that one day they will all be ready for the world outside these walls. It is my most important job to keep my students safe and to provide an environment that is conducive to learning. Students who are unsure, tired, afraid, excluded, ridiculed, bullied, harassed, and who lack support cannot learn or grow. According to several government entities, such as the CDC, Center for Disease Control, the Minnesota Department of Education, the Human Rights Campaign, the Trevor Project, and several others that are listed, I believe, on that sheet, suicide is the second leading cause of death among people ages 10 to 24. Those are our kids. Those are our middle schoolers. Those are our high schoolers. Those are our youth. The following statistics are listed on the sheet I handed you, so feel free to follow along. I'm just going to highlight a couple of them. First of all, as it's already been said, LGB youth are almost 5 times as likely to have attempted suicide as compared with heterosexual youth. The rates are even higher for transgender individuals. 86% of students report being bullied. 61% feel unsafe at school. 33% have reported skipping a day of school in the past month because they feel unsafe. Each individual episode of LGBT victimization increases the likelihood of self-harming behavior by 2.5 times on average. 92% of LGBT individuals who have attempted suicide say that they felt that no safe place existed for them in schools and that they had no one to turn to. This is not about a flag. This is about the safety of our kids. There is no evidence to suggest that it's possible to change a person's sexual orientation. That is listed for you by the American Medical Association and 14 other entities. And I just want to say that I want our kids safe. Please keep that in mind, as you always have when making decisions.
Thank you.
My name is Edward, and I believe that the flag itself should remain as a silent but proud symbol that our youth, who may be trying to find their identity within a very transformation-centric time in their lives, I myself am a member of the community. I am Edward and I am a trans man, but I am a human first, as are all members of the LGBT community, no matter what letter of the acronym they fall under. I feel as a community, Marshall should strive not to hate and alienate those who find themselves in this explorative situation. I first came out to my grandmother, raised evangelical and practicing. She gave me her full support and has been a pillar of strength since I was of an infantile age. When I came out to my father to tell him he had a son, he scolded me and removed me from his home. He does not practice any religion. I believe hate is not born from a belief, but from the unknown. Moving forward, I hope we as a community, no matter what side, choose not to hate, but rather to educate each other to become a stronger place and create a community our youth can grow up in without fear of rejection or ostracization, no matter what path of life they choose to explore. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Seamus Mahan. I'm your neighbor. Some of you have heard some of the similar messages I'm going to say today. I said it last Tuesday. I know there's religious objection to the LGBTQ flag, but the God I follow taught us one thing: love your neighbor. These are our neighbors. These are our children. Middle school is the time where you have develop your self-identity. You can choose to help them become loving, fully functional members of society, or you can teach them to loathe and hate themselves. Which choice are we going to make? Not just here as a school board, but as a community. What are we going to say to our youth? That we're stuck in 1980s values? Or that we're looking to the future where every life is valuable? Everyone. Thank you.
I don't have any notes. I don't know why I brought that.
Please state your name, Bill, please.
I am Linda Stogstead, and I thank you for hearing us out today, and thank you for being here. I, too, am excited in the mission of all learners and everyone equally. The LGBTQ is a part of my family, as I've had a brother live in the lifestyle. I have a niece, and so it's near and dear to my heart. But I stand here and say that I want to support everyone equally. I may not have the same beliefs as the LGBTQ, but I do love. And I am here to be a part of the solution, because I believe every single one of these students here and teachers and moms and dads deserve to feel loved. All those that are not here today deserve to feel loved and safe in the community as well. I don't know how we're going to do that to bring us back together. I don't want to be them, us. That is not my point, and that is not who I want to be. I love Marshall. This is my community. This is my school district. My kids have gone through school here. So as I see that flag, I just know that there's some excluded. And so how do we come together, and how do we come and be one? I'm just glad I'm not sitting where you're sitting. I know it's a big job, but we can be a pillar to show that we belong together and not separate entities. So I don't know how we can do that, but I would raise my hand and say I'll be a part of the solution. I don't know what it is, but let's have every voice for every child come together. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Grant Blumberg. I have three students in the Marshall Middle School, two in the middle school, one in the elementary. It was interesting to hear what happened over Christmas break and to know that the board had nothing to do about it. to know that the superintendent didn't know about it, the board didn't know about it, and it went up. I'm for it. I'm not against it. I don't want it taken down, but I also want equality for all. The students that are there that don't have a flag, which is more of the majority, are being left out now. Now they're not included. Now they're excluded. Now they don't get a flag. Now they don't have a voice. So the ones that are up there have a voice. You included some, but you excluded the majority. If we want to include all, we should include these guys. We should include the others. We should include the minorities, the people that come from other countries, the military families. I went to the superintendent and said, what about the military families? Why not have military flags up there? We need to include all. If we're going to include some, let's include all. Let's not exclude. Let's be inclusive to everybody. Because guess what? I do love the LGBT community. I talk to them constantly. I counsel with them. I don't look at them as different. I have a cousin that's been gay for 30 years. I love her. I care about her. But we also need to not just exclude those that are there, but include them. So how can we do that? I guess that's up to you guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ann Veldhuizen. I'm the pastor of the Presbyterian Church here in Marshall, Minnesota. And I felt like I had nothing to say because I believe the people who have stood up here have spoken very eloquently about the ideas of loving one another, of the staples of our school district to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success. And even as we said, the Pledge of Allegiance together for liberty and justice for all. And I believe all of you are working toward those goals as you sit here on this board. And the people behind me, whether they've spoken or thought in favor of or against what we're here to talk about, seek the same things. I do want to say, though, about the idea of including all people is there was a letter that was submitted on behalf of some of the ministers in Marshall, not all of the ministers in Marshall, and that those who have found one church that speaks against who they are as a fundamental human being, there is another church that they can find that will love and accept them as they are as a fundamental human being. But what I do want to say in regards to the flag itself is that it represents ultimately gay pride. And gay pride was not born out of a need to celebrate being gay. It was born out of a right to exist without persecution. So instead of wondering, why isn't there a straight pride flag, be thankful that you don't need one. Thanks.
Is there anybody else? Whoever wants to speak after her, if they could stand close.
Good evening. My name's Dolores Williams. I'm a parent of somebody who attends the Marshall Public Schools. I'm just going to go ahead and finish up some of the stats that Carrie Albers had. Here, I'll just continue. There is no evidence to suggest that it is possible to change a person's sexual orientation or attraction, and that in many cases it is dangerous to attempt to do so, as it increases the prevalence of self-hate, self-harm, depression, anxiety, and suicide. The statement is backed up by at least 14 entities, many that are listed on the back of the sheet that you have in front of you. These entities have also asserted that same-sex, sexual, and romantic attractions, feelings, and behaviors are normal and positive variations of human sexuality, regardless of sexual orientation. And I also just want to share with you that my son is Edward, and during his time in the Marshall Public School System, and it's recorded, and there's evidence of it, his life had been threatened, and action was taken, but that's the thing that had happened, and the appropriate action was taken for his safety. But those things are happening, he is trans male, and there isn't a language yet, and it's hard to understand, and we are sympathetic to that, and we understand. But if there's support and there's allyship there to help, a flag up like that shows students who aren't able to talk about it yet and don't have the language, but then at least there's a show of support in that way to know that there's somebody sees, somebody's listening, there's somewhere to go in the school system. We are here to learn, and that's the main focus, but if that support's there, it helps. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Jean Porter. I have gone through the Marshall school system. I was grateful enough to get a Pride in the Tiger scholarship, and now I am in my second year at SMSU going for theater. But those are more of my happy days right now, but my formative days were not so exciting like my current life was. In middle school, it's on my record. I actually missed well over 60 days in my 7th grade year because I didn't have anyone at the school to defend the person I was or to help me even explain who I was or what I was feeling or these things that were happening. And if the person that I am now was back in middle school and I saw that gay pride flag, maybe I wouldn't have missed so many school days, you know? Maybe I wouldn't cry every time I think about middle school. But that's all I wanted to say. Gay kids exist, and we need to be represented too.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dan Smith. I'm a proud teacher in Marshall Public Schools. This is my 18th year here. I had not intended to speak tonight. Something that my pastor and friend, Ann Veldhuizen, said brought a line of poetry to mind, written by John Gorka, Minnesota songwriter, in a song, Ignorance and Privilege, where he talks about realizing how much privilege he had and never knew that he had growing up a perfectly normal Midwestern life. He says, when the wind is at your back and you never turn around, you may never know the wind is there, you may never hear the sound. Most of our students are lucky enough to have the wind at their back. And I see many of them in our hallways and classrooms every day who have the wind at their back and they don't know it. Some of them have the wind at their face. My oldest child is a transgender individual that some of you knew as a little girl in daycare, some of you knew as a little girl in elementary school, and some of you knew as a neighbor. She didn't have the wind at her back, and she struggled. In middle school and high school and her first attempt at college were terrifying, horrifying, and we've heard a lot of statistics, but I'm here to tell you that the statistics are absolutely positively real. I was standing back there trying to count the number of suicide attempts, and I lost track at 7. Would a flag 10 years ago in the cafeteria made a difference for her? I don't know. It's beyond knowing. But I know it wouldn't have hurt. And I can dream that maybe it would have opened or helped open doors to conversation that remained and in some ways still remain shut. Thank you for supporting all of our kids, even if they don't have the wind at their back.
Some years back, I taught in this very building.
Sir, state your name
Yes.
first, okay?
My name is Darwin Dice. I'm from Ghent, Minnesota. But I used to be a teacher here. And the students that I taught were sometimes misunderstood by other people, but they each had a valuable place in our school and community. The rainbow flag is a symbol of world peace, as well as a sign that LGBTQ folks are safe here. I don't understand why a symbol of safety is a threat. People need to understand that identifying outside of the typical male-female way of being is not a choice. It is who they are. And who are we to sit in judgment and deny who they are? My oldest child, now 30 years plus, could certainly have benefited from the awareness and acceptance that the rainbow flag represents. The journey was long and difficult, but now openly a member of the LGBTQ community, their personal acceptance, confidence, security, and self-worth has grown tremendously. For that, I am so very grateful. As a parent who has seen the isolation along with subtle and not so subtle rejection of their child, I will not stand by and watch our community step backward from the dignity and self-worth that has been returned to my child and all people represented in the LGBTQ community. Puffed up, self-righteous indignation, void of human compassion for someone who presents their sexuality different than typical male-female relationships cannot claim to hide behind Christianity's central call to love one another. In reality, such intolerance takes root in a church or organization's doctrine, which willfully excludes and shuns those of the LGBTQ community. If that's what you find yourself doing, at least be honest about it. I'm a person of faith, and my faith calls for the separation of church and hate. Lord knows we need to draw larger circles of compassion for the well-being of all children and youth. All children and youth. I want everyone in the LGBTQ persuasion to know that they are safe and supported. I want this school and all schools to embrace every student, yes, every student with compassion and understanding. I want calls for compassion and understanding to be seen as a source of community strength, not an agenda to be feared. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dana Moore, and I'm a teacher here, and I'm very grateful for being able to teach in a wonderful school district such as Marshall Public Schools. I'm also a parent and a community member, and I have some children that go to school here at the middle school, and I also have some children that go to a Christian school in town. And I can assure you that my words will not be as elegant or as beautiful as Mr. Smith's or Mr. Dice, but I do have a point to make as far as being an employee of this school district. And I had not planned on speaking tonight as well, but hearing all the other things said and looking at our mission statement, the thing that comes to mind for me is I want to be a teacher that does the best I can for all students, and the key word in that is all. And I feel that if I don't just say that I'm okay with that flag being there, but actually saying I'm willing to fight for it and defend it, that if there's kids in this school that come to me and I am not able to express that viewpoint, then I'm lying to them. I'm telling them that, well, I kind of support you. That's kind of my view on it. So I think it's very important to just look at it from the perspective of, do we really mean that when we say that we're here for all? Even if my religious faith views were, against the idea of it being appropriate, I would still hope that as an employee of a public school, that if I really meant that I was here for all students, that I would support that. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Morgan Sockstead. And I just wanted to clear some of the air. And I believe that this flag has brought the perception that if we're not for the LGBTQ community, that we're against it, and that's simply not true. I love all the LGBTQ people and who are in it, but I think it just kind of divides the school and the kids, either for or against this flag being put up. And I think maybe a way, I do understand all like the bullying and the psychological issues that come along with being LGBTQ, and I just think maybe having a support group for them to emotionally help them work through all those things would be better than putting up a flag that kind of brings division among the students and staff. And so that's just what I have.
Thank you.
My name is Shanda Basut, but I'm actually going to read this from my daughter. My daughter is Rachel Basut, and she lives in Slovakia, so it's hard for her to be here today. So she has sent this to me. She's obviously been following what's been going on. Hello, members of the Marshall Public School District and the wider Marshall community. My name is Rachel Basut, and I was a member of the Marshall Senior High class of 2015, and as well as a graduate from Holy Redeemer School. I've lived in Marshall area for essentially my entire life. I'm writing in support of hanging the LGBT plus flag in the Marshall Middle School for multiple reasons. It is beneficial to all the students who go to your school and those who don't. I'm not going to read all her statistics because they've been there, but she went to Holy Redeemer. She was here for a lot of activities, and every single time she walked in this building, to have seen that flag and as a child, like many of them have said, could have changed her life and made her depression, hopefully not what she went through. I'm sorry. By allowing the flag to hang in the school, you are telling the entire student body and the community that it is okay to not be heterosexual without ever needing to explicitly say the words. Her biggest thing she would like me to tell you is to be brave. She is asking you to be brave for the students who are not yet brave themselves and need someone else to show them that it is, in fact, okay to be gay in Marshall, Minnesota. The depressing sad statistics that people are suicidal and that, yes, counseling, group, everything helps, but also seeing a symbol like we see in front of us today, hanging in front of you and knowing it's okay is huge. I thank you, Marshall School District. I thank you for listening. I thank you for taking the time, and I thank you for employing me as part of your school, because I am blessed to work in a school that has many students that are fighting for their rights every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody? Oh, there we go.
Hello, my name's Ellen Helgerson. I want to first start out by saying, with the flags and the whole idea behind the flags, it is not about excluding anybody. It is about being inclusive and making people feel accepted and wanted. I see it as very warm and welcoming to the flags that were put up in the Marshall Middle School cafeteria. Our population is so beautifully diverse at MMS. How amazing that we can acknowledge not only the countries represented at our school, but also that it is a safe zone for all. I personally have an LGBTQ symbol in my classroom, and I have had a handful of students pull me aside to tell me how much that means to them. Sexual orientation is not a choice. The sooner students understand and don't question if they are wrong, the better. No matter the race, religion, special needs, or even sexual orientation, it should be known that these students are welcome in my classroom and at MMS. Thank you.
there anybody else? On behalf of the school board, thank you. Moving on to our presentation. Welcome our representatives from Taher Foods. Maybe a minute.
They're all leaving.
Here, we don't have budget. Let's get budget to start.
That's for me. That's a reminder that Valentine's Day is coming up. It's a two-way street. Do I need to talk to Timmy? Does he remember? Does he do pretty well with that stuff?
Mark, welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Glad
it.
you came today, I'll bet.
Thank you. So, my name is Mark Broderson. I'm the Vice President of Operations for Taher Incorporated. I'm joined tonight by Lori Fruin, who's our on-site food service director, and Jamie Sumby, who's one of our district managers. And Jamie's shadowing me because we're working together on a few things. So I asked him to come out. So I want to start by thanking the Marshall Public Schools for we're in our 33rd year of partnership providing the food service program for your students and community. And it's a great honor for us. So we thank you very much for that.
Mark and I have been together for 33 years. I want to let you know that.
We have, you know.
I hope
I'm
he gets
older.
paid well for that.
I'm older.
I hope he gets paid well for that.
I just want to touch on last year. We certainly had another good year, and we're certainly grateful for that. I won't dwell on it. We're continuing to look at menu choices. The menu is obviously a key component for what we do. And so, you know, we still continue to deal with the regulations and try to develop recipes and menus that the kids enjoy and will eat. Our LTOs, which are limited offerings, we certainly are doing those and did those. Our Harvest of the Month in terms of educating students on both fruit, vegetables, grain, or an herb, and we do that on a monthly basis. Farm to School, you know, we continue with that locally. We're using Dan Tiffany just outside of Redwood Falls, and we're also using the Rupert Family Farms down in Curry. The other point is that we had a summer feeding program review, an administrative review, and that went very, very well. We had, I think, a couple of administrative issues that we had to resolve, but for the most part, it was a very successful review. When I look at this current year, and Jamie, I'm wondering if you could take that out of the bag and give everybody one. Hopefully I can get this right. Last summer, Lori and Jamie and the rest of our colleagues in terms of our mid-management and executive team embarked on the theme that we look at for this year, and we developed and used a concept called all in. And you know, it's like a poker reference, if you will, where you have a poker chip. Let's say that you have all your chips and the next time you play, you put everything in. This gentleman, and I think there's another slide. Let me just see. Nope. I think it's you might have it in your packet. Jean-Paul Gonzalez was a teacher that developed this system. He was hired by the New York Giants. When the Giants were having some struggles, the coaching staff decided that they needed to get together and actually bring their team together, if you will. So they hired him. He's come up with the symbol of all in, and we created that for our theme this year. And what it really represents is that everyone on our food service team understands the importance of what we're doing and why we're doing it to get to a measured outcome. So regardless of whether they're the food service director, a district manager, a VP, someone who works on the main line serving, a point of sale person, everybody understands the mission. And so we'd like to give you one of those. What we do with our team is we ask people to either carry it or put it somewhere as just kind of a subtle, did you give one to the students too, the student board? Good, okay. I want to make sure you guys get one as well. It's important. That it's just a constant reminder. I carry mine in my pocket all the time. And it's a way for us to bring ourselves together and a focus of what we're doing, and I think that's important. We did welcome bags this year for the first time in a long time, and Lori did it for all of the staff and administrative team here at the school. And it's really an important way to just say, you know, please come into the dining room or the cafeteria and enjoy a lunch. And there's no better model than an adult eating cafeteria food next to the children. I think that's extremely important to model, and so that's one way to encourage them to do that. Obviously, social media, you know, we have the Instagram, we have the Facebook page, we have the food service website as part of the district website. It's just a way for us to continue to get our message out that we become and we are part of the extension of you as a service for the food service program. We just completed the preference survey. You may have taken it yourself. We're in the process now of extrapolating that data. We'll be presenting it to you. And the other thing that we will do is if there are some reoccurring themes that have been told to us, we'll certainly try to identify what those are. And then what we do is if it's in an individual building or the food service as a whole, we'll acknowledge that, and then we'll indicate what we're doing about it. Because I think it's important that if you ask someone their opinion, but you don't listen or do anything about it, we haven't done anything, we haven't learned. So that will be coming up. The menu app is up and running. I think we had a glitch today with it, so if you went on the menu app, you might not have got all the nutritional information. We forced a download last night because we upgraded some things and it messed some stuff up. So the company was in the process of trying to fix that today, but we hope that that's also a way for families, students, stakeholders to look at what we're doing and to see what we're doing and make some choices even before they come into the cafeterias. We still continue onboarding our staff. The food service training is extremely important. We do that in a variety of ways. Next week we'll have one of our chefs, our corporate chefs, come down and they'll work with some of our team members, and we try to continue with that. I'm going to ask Lori to talk real quickly about the West Side 3rd and 4th grade event that you did under the ship. Can you come up and just share that real quick? Because I think you have to be on the microphone. So, yeah, you do. It's okay. It's all right.
Well, working with Shannon with SHIP, we had the after-school program at Westside for the 3rd and 4th graders. We did a taste test, and we did the yellow, red, green peppers, and then we made some homemade pita bread, and then we made homemade ranch dip using yogurt, and then hummus. And the kids, we had them try everything, and we talked about how the peppers, the different flavors with the red, the green, and the yellow. And then we had them eat and taste it, and then they had to put up a sticker of what they liked and what they didn't like. And they found now that they really like the peppers, so we have them pretty often at Westside. So it went really good.
Thanks, Lori. Appreciate it. As I mentioned, you know, we're still doing LTOs. And then our chef, corporate chef Chris, will be out here next Monday, actually, and he's going to be working on the Al Pastor, which is a street taco. So we'll be doing that. Our farm to school events, it's been interesting. We did the 3B vineyard. We did some Somerset table grapes, and so we brought those in, and that was very, very successful. So we're very pleased to see that. I talked about the welcome bag so you could see what was in that. And then obviously there's an example of the grapes that we did actually. And then this also indicates some other things as well. With the Rupert family, we did watermelons, cantaloupe, carrots, green beans, beets and onions, and we put all of those into the menu in some form. And then the grass, it's actually grass finished beef. It's a process that he does. And we did hamburger patties, hot dogs, sloppy joes, and meatloaf. So it's very exciting for us to do that.
Just a question from
Yes.
a farm boy, why the grass-finished beef? Does that include something that's mandated by the federal government, or?
It's not. It's I believe, and I wish Dan was here to actually talk about it as the producer. It's however he raises the animal, he finishes it by just feeding it grass. So it's a process, and I don't know what happens before that finishing to really bring the animal to weight and then ultimately to market. So it's a very specific. I don't believe it's organic, is it? I don't know that he's an organic farmer, but it's been.
Curious.
Yeah, it has a very different flavor,
Yeah,
than just animals that are strictly grain. And I'm not a producer, so I'm not an expert at it, but there is a different flavor. But the children have, the students have really enjoyed it. So. I think I got my slides out of order, but I'll just go. So the harvest of the month, I think hopefully you remember those. We usually give a fun fact. We talk about it, and we do it in different grade levels. So, the ones that we do at the high school level are different than what we do in the primary or elementary. The Louisiana Crayola, that just gives you an idea. And then just some things that we try to do as monotony breakers, if you will. And believe it or not, we have our team associates that get into specials, that dress up and act a little crazy. The kids love it. And then chef, this is just another example of what Chris Murray has been doing in terms of German cuisine. And again, just to remind you that we have a group of chefs that travel throughout the world to really find and experience food in various countries, figure out how they make them and bring them back, and then we try to incorporate that. Okay, so real quick, just some statistics, if you will. So we look at the summer breakfast first. I started from 2016, and it's back up to this last year, so you can sort of see the trend. These are our breakfast averages. So we averaged about 110 breakfast a day. And then at lunch, we averaged 221. It obviously serves a need to the community. We'd love to have more, and we hope we can continue to, but you can see that the path we are, we're obviously able to grow that. This now is part of what we call the National School Lunch Program and National School Breakfast Program. So you can see right now, year to date, we're at 821. We ended last year with 783. I will point out that the Second Chance Breakfast, which we do it, let's say at the high school as an example, we've learned the high school students don't want to come to school and eat right away. That's just not something that they want to do. They want to wait just a little bit. So the Second Chance Breakfast was really designed to be able to offer that as an opportunity, and we've really been successful. So that's part of the reason why those numbers are
Mark, when
growing.
you say that, what time of the day? Are they getting like after first period or where, later in the morning?
It's after the first period.
It's after the first period, yeah. Yeah, I think they only have, I want to say they have less than 5 minutes, right? Because I think it's the passing break. 6 minutes long.
Okay.
So part of the challenge is we have to give them something that they'll enjoy, be able to eat kind of almost on the run, and then have the building full of garbage, because they have to obviously get it. So we're still working on that. We'd love to have a hot breakfast, but that's really hard to pull off, and they really just come through in a kind of a fast clip. A la carte, I just show this slide to show you that really, when you look at it, part of the reg changes that were from years ago, we're restricted on what we can do from a la carte sales. And quite frankly, I stand before you saying that I really want the kids to eat a type A meal. That's really our focus. It's our energy. It's where we put all of our resources. But the reality is there are times when people want to buy some a la carte items. So you can sort of see the trend line that we've been kind of hovering between the 900 and 924 a day, and that's combined through all buildings. The à la carte equivalents, that gets a little bit goofy because you look and say, well, it's down. The problem is we're using a higher dollar amount, so each year that changes. And I think we're at $3.45. I think it's $3.45 is the meal equivalent. So, last year before that, I think it was 20 cents less. So obviously sometimes the meals look like they're going down, but we're using a different meal equivalent factor. Then if you take a look at all meals, total lunch and breakfast and equivalents, right now, year to date, we're at 3,229. We ended the year last year at 3,095. So the trend line, we're still very close. I know that there's information out there that the Trump administration all of a sudden is going to change the program requirements. And I just want to share with you that that's not necessarily, it doesn't mean that all of the regulations are going to change and we're going to go backwards. It means that they're looking at the regulations and making some changes to it. And what I wanted to do was just point out one or two for you so that you get some sense. I think part of the effort is really to bring some common sense back into some of the regulations. The regulations in some respects are very restrictive, okay? And if you take sodium as an example, the sodium requirements, and of course sodium provides flavor. So when you remove it from food, you have to introduce something else to it to make it taste good, an herb or the way that the meal is made. And so what they're doing is they're looking at some of these things to say, what can we do to change it without changing the whole thing? If you look at something like whole grain, we've been able to be successful on children eating whole grain buns and bread. Okay, that's really easy. If you take pasta, whole grain pasta does not exist in Italy, and pasta was created in Italy. So if you really look at it, we tried to make something that's very popular, that the children enjoy, and now we're trying to make it whole grain. It doesn't look the same, it doesn't taste the same, it doesn't behave the same. And so we're looking at that we can go back and serve white pasta, the same as with brown rice. There's nothing wrong with brown rice, but the kids really don't prefer it, and they like white rice. So we're looking at some of these, and so what they talked about is that there's going to be some greater flexibility to the existing vegetable subgroup requirements, and of course there's a lot of them. You have to have so many orange, so many red, so many green or leafy greens. And then it would also make it easier for menu planners to offer meat and meat alternatives and grains interchangeably. So you could use a grain that would obviously take the place of meat or vice versa. And then the other one would be that the school breakfast program would no longer have a grain requirement. You can certainly offer it, but it's not required to be a reimbursable. And then instead of a full cup of fruit, you can offer a half a cup of fruit, because in some respects, they may not consume the whole cup of fruit. So we end up filling the dumpsters as opposed to the students. So those are some. I think once the rule is reviewed again, more information will be available, and we can certainly make that available and pass that out. The Healthy to a T newsletter that we create, we try to do this each month. This particular month now, it's the blood orange, so we give some fun facts. We make this available to everyone in the community. We talk about it. We have our nutritionists talk a little bit about a dialogue of eating habits, eating healthier, and then we create a recipe. And this one, it's the blood orange ricotta salad. And we do it in a serving of 4, so a family could do it at home. They don't have to have a recipe of 50, and now they have to somehow knock it down. And so we make that available, and it's just another way for us to reach the audience and talk about healthier choices and some of the items that the children would be experiencing in the cafeteria program. So with that, I kind of went through it really fast, but I know your time is short, so if there's any questions that you have of myself or Lori.
Mark, with the federal cutting of programs for the free and reduced, is that going to affect our summer program?
No, there are some rule changes to the summer program. It's more administrative, to be honest. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that'll make it easier for the school district in terms of meal accountability and some of those. But no, the free and reduced should be protected.
Okay.
That, and I think that there are so many advocates that I don't think that will ever hopefully happen. Yeah, you bet.
Okay.
Good question. Yeah.
Board members, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Yeah.
Have a safe trip home. Yeah.
Board forum, board members, anybody like to bring up anything? Moving on to our school board goals for the second quarter.
Just, excuse me, hopefully you had an opportunity to read the memorandum that I included. If you think back to when you, as a board, accepted or approved the goal to really focus on maintaining a highly engaged workplace and retaining excellent staff. Each of you, when you've been on your site visits, have been kind enough to provide Tricia and I sort of a summary of what you talked about, what you did, what you found interesting, challenges, celebrations, so on and so forth. And I took all of those and put together kind of 12, I guess I'd call them common discussion points or activities, meaning they probably took place at least 2, if not more, of the sites. Some of them likely aren't any surprise to you, but periodically there may be, excuse me, something in there that you kind of go, I hadn't really thought about that before. So maybe this will spurn when you have your meetings here in the third quarter, some ideas for you to talk about with your site administration and or staff members. But at the bottom, I also put thank you. Thank you for taking time to go to your sites and really show your support for our staff and our programs, and through learning more about what's going on and continuing to be an advocate for those different things. So if you have any questions, I can certainly try to answer them.
Moving on to our second reading of policies 901 through 907. Does any board member have any questions or comments? Looking at our budget process map, anything you'd like to bring up? Or does anybody have any questions?
Just, I know during the school board retreat, there was some discussion about maybe it would be helpful if all board members, those that are not on the quote-unquote finance committee, kind of get some insight into some of the actions or activities that take place when the budget is being developed. So I asked Dion to put this into, and Tricia, to put this into the meeting just for informational purposes, so you can kind of get a sense of what's been done, what's happening, and what will happen in the future as you lead up to the June board meeting, second board meeting in June, where by law you have to approve a preliminary budget.
Moving on to our action items. Approval of the construction bid for the Parkside Early Childhood Addition, alterations, and Parkside High School Maytech security projects. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion?
I just wanted to point out, hopefully you've had time to look at the 2 attachments. The one attachment is the bid tabulation from the 2 local construction companies that put bids out on the projects, as well as the alternates. The second attachment is from ICS in collaboration with us, and then also the Finance Committee of the recommendation of the company to go with, and also the alternates that were listed, all except for 1, actually 2 were included, and that would still be under budget with including those 4 alternates. So if you have any questions, let me know.
How much under budget?
It's a little over $14,000.
Very good. I'll call for a vote.
I'll second. I don't know if it came into the record that there'd be a second, so I'll second. Yeah.
I put down Bill Swope, but that was you. I'll change it. There we go.
It was Bill, but I just don't know that there was a second because somebody spoke over there at the same time.
I put Moso and you.
These 2 are fine.
Good?
We had a first and a second.
That's good. That's all we
All
need.
right.
I'm just making sure.
Also,
Don't make me crash the computer now. All right, we'll vote now, please. It is approved. Approval of the furniture vendor for the early childhood edition and new elementary projects. Motion to approve. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion?
Back on December 20th, Tiffany, Jeremy Williams, Eric, and I met as the furniture committee. We had invited a couple of furniture vendors that were part of the cooperative purchasing to come in and present. We put together some information. Pricing-wise, between the two, they were pretty even. It's going to come down to our cooperative purchasing discount plus volume discount. But Innovative Solutions look like they would be able to provide a little better customer service from start to finish. And so that's our recommendation that we brought over to the Bond Oversight Committee, which is also their recommendation to the board.
Any questions, board members? Hearing none. Vote, please. It is approved. Authorization to extend school year. Do we have a motion?
So move.
It's open for discussion. Did you guys want to weigh in on that? Going to make the school year longer, or?
Could a parent chime in?
Hearing none. Please vote. Is approved. Approval of resolution relating to the termination of non-renewal and teaching contracts. Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's open for discussion.
These are individuals who have Tier 2 or out-of-field permission type licenses that expire on June 30th, 2020. So we need to non-renew those individuals, post the position for 60 days, and see what kind of applicants we get. We certainly hope that they all choose to reapply and that we're able to bring them back, but it's a state law that when they don't have the appropriate licensure, we need to do this.
Very good. Questions? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.